Today's story is called Joan. And Joan's story has some twists, a few turns, and definitely some name dropping. You know, name dropping. I'm not going to tell you who yet, otherwise it just takes away the surprise. But there are humdingers in there. All right, the year is 1946. Joan is 16 years old. She lives in Boston. And on this particular day, she learns that Calloway, who was a big band leader in the late 30s and early 40s, and definitely well into the 1970s, he's giving a performance at the Paramount Theater in Boston. So she decides, on a whim, not really a whim, it's kind of sort of like premeditated, she decides that she and her best friend Sylvia are going to go to the Calloway concert. So that sets up the story just a little bit. So before we get into the deep, long tale of Joan, I just want to ask you to do me a kind courtesy. Smash that like button down below. Helps out the channel immensely. And while you're down there, you might want to hit the subscribe button. I'm just saying, just throwing it out there. And right next to that is the notifications bell to be notified every single time I upload new content. And there's more new content coming. So do that, help a brother out. You'd be helping me out with the YouTube algorithm, which I desperately need some help with, because right now I don't have 1,000 subscribers or 4,000 watch hours at the time of this recording. So if you could hit that like button, you'd be helping me out. All right, let's get into Joan. When last we left Joan, she was skipping school with her best friend Sylvia. So they made a beeline to the Paramount Theater and got some tickets. And they got prime, front row, center seat tickets for a matinee performance. As a matter of fact, it was Calloway's last matinee performance in Boston, and it was a Friday afternoon. So they get in their seats, and they are hooting and hollering. Cab is the original. He's the guy that Jim Carrey emulated. His swag became a thing before swag was swag. So all that baggy pant thing, that's Calloway. Joan and Sylvia are hooting and hollering up a storm. And Cab sees them. And he plays to them because he's a performer and he does have an eye for the ladies. Boy, does he ever. So after the performance is over, Cab sends his manager out to get them, to bring them backstage. They come backstage, and according to Sylvia, they had a good time. Joan never said a word about what happened backstage. Cab says, "Hey, you girls want to come to my farm?" Joan and Sylvia look at one another and go, "Sure, why not? Calloway wants to hang out with us? Why wouldn't I?" Of course, neither one asks, "Where's the farm?" So they all pile into Cab's bus, he and his orchestra, and they drive 9.5 hours to Virginia. And they're having a grand time, smoking cigarettes, drinking booze, and whatnot. They get to Cab's farm, because Cab has a farm. And Cab says, "Hey, let's barbecue." So they whip up a barbecue. And just then, the phone rings. And on the phone, all we hear is very distant. Cab says, "Oh yeah? How far out are you?" And all we hear is, according to Sylvia. Cab says, "An hour? Wow, we got the barbecue rolling, and we got some new friends. Come on over. See you in an hour. So an hour goes by. They're drinking, hooting and hollering and eating up that barbecue. And this big white bus rolls up. And out pours an orchestra leader. And the orchestra leader is Duke Ellington. Yep, that Duke Ellington. And part of the orchestra is a young blind man. Young blind boy, actually. He's only recently put a shingle out, but he's a musical genius. While he may be blind, he plays a mean piano. And his name? Ray Charles. So the story goes that Ray had a penchant for the ladies. He may be blind, but he ain't blind. He had a penchant for the ladies. And he made a beeline for Joan. And they got to talking. An hour goes by, 2 hours goes by, and according to Sylvia, she didn't know exactly when Joan left, but Joan definitely disappeared after a while. She wasn't in the barn, she wasn't in the house, and she definitely wasn't out back, so Lord knows what happened to Joan. Except Joan. A little while later, Joan does turn up. According to Joan, Ray was a perfect gentleman. Nothing untoward happened. Sylvia, on the other hand, noticed a few red marks along Joan's neck. Looked an awful lot like hickeys. Ray was a perfect gentleman. I need to stop right here, do a little commercial break, and then we have to tell you the whole story about Joan. If you like this stuff, hit that like button down below, helps out the channel. Right next to that is the subscribe button. Click that to subscribe to my channel, and right next to that is the notifications bell to click that and to be notified every single time I upload new content. And there's more new content coming, which reminds me, this is user-supported content, which is the delicate way of saying that Mr. Miles is flat broke poor and needs some help. $1, $3, $5, whatever you can afford. It puts gas in the tank and food in the stomach so that I can continue traveling the country, showing you places you probably haven't seen before, and telling you a few stories I know you haven't heard before. If you could do that, you'd be helping me out immensely, because YouTube isn't paying me a dime for this stuff. I need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours, and I have neither at this point. So if you could find your way to donating $1, $3, $5, you'd be helping me out immensely. All right, now back to the Joan story. So a little bit of full disclosure. Joan is my mother in this story. This is a 16-year-old Joan, and she's about to be joined, as you'll soon see, by my grandmother, Amelia. Now, rightfully, this should have been an Amelia story, but it's more about Joan than it is about Amelia. But she does figure prominently. All right, now, back to the story. So, right about then, just as Ray and Joan are coming back, phone rings. Cab answers, and we hear the wah, 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 according to Sylvia. And Joan and Ray and everybody else all immediately go, "Really?" Just as Cab extols that she's coming. Who's she? About 20 minutes later, brand new car rolls up, and out steps a very fine, a very svelte Billie Holiday. You see, Billie had a farm right down the road a piece from Cab, and they'd hang out occasionally. So there you have Cab Calloway, Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, and the incomparable Miss Billie Holiday, all on Cab's farm with my mother Joan and her best friend Sylvia. So after a few drinks, Billie's looking at my mother and she's saying, "That girl looks awfully young." Yep. She's 16. Finally she says, "Girl, how old are you?" And my mother confidently perks up with, 17? She ain't 17. She just turned 16. A few months back. She ain't no 17. Sylvie looks at her and says, "Mitzi, that's Miss Billie Holiday. Who you lying to?" "I'm 16, Ms. Holiday." Oh my God. Ms. Holiday says, "Does your mama know where you at?" "No, ma'am. I haven't had a chance to call her." "Well, we're gonna call her right now. Cab, give me the phone." "Girl, give me your number." We calling your mama. She's probably worried sick. My grandfather answered the phone, and he just immediately handed it to my grandmother. And my grandmother heard this. "Miss Haas, this is Miss Billie Holiday. I'm at Cab Calloway's farm in Virginia. And unfortunately, your daughter is here with me. She neglected to call you. She's very sorry." And my grandmother is just stunned. First she thinks it's a prank. And then she says, "Who is this?" She says, "Miss Harris, this is Miss Billie Holiday." And my grandmother actually says to her, "Prove it." And that's when Miss Billie Holiday starts singing to my grandmother. I guess she proved it. She said, Miss House, we're very sorry. Do you want to speak to your daughter?" She puts my mother on the phone. She says, "Mitzi, where is you? Never mind. Get your ass home." My mother says, "I'll be there directly. It's gonna be a bit, Mom. I'm sorry." Put Miss Holiday on the phone. My grandmother gives Miss Holiday a ration that I'm sure peeled the paint. And eventually, Miss Billie Holiday makes arrangements for my mother and her best friend Sylvia to catch a bus the next morning and to take them all the way back to Boston to my grandmother's house. Mother Joan Norma McClenny met Calloway, Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, and the incomparable Billie Holiday. You know, my mother didn't actually tell me that story. I learned about it through third party. First, my grandfather, and after he had passed, I asked my grandmother what he meant, and she told me about the time that my mother went off gallivanting with Calloway, and she got a call from Billie Holiday. And after my mother passed, Sylvie was at the funeral, and I asked Sylvie about the experience with Ray Charles, and she told me the whole story from Sylvia's perspective. So that's how I know about the story. Although every once in a while, when Ray Charles would come on the radio or on the TV, my mother would stop for a moment, take a breath, and smile, and I always wondered what that was about. And every once in a while, I'd ask her, "Did you ever meet Ray Charles?" And she'd just smile, and that was that. So it was Sylvie that actually told me the story. All right, this is actually another story about my mother and another famous person, and I'll just give you a tiny little taste. Jackie O. That's a good one. And that one she did actually tell me, because it refers to me. All right, that's enough yapping for today. Thanks a bunch for watching. I appreciate your time, your patience, and your patronage. If you like this stuff, do me a kind solid, if you'd be so lovely as to hook a brother up. Hit that like button down below. It really helps out the channel with the YouTube algorithm. And the subscribe button, which is right next to it, and the notifications bell, which is right next to that, to be notified every single time I upload new content. And there is more new content coming, I swear to God. Which is my lovely segue into the fact that I need some cash. I need $1, $3, $5 from you. If you can afford it, great, please do that. Find the Patreon link down below. It really helps putting gas in the tank and food in the stomach so that I can continue to travel the country in this vehicle right here and showing you places just like this. Telling you stories just like that. So if you like that stuff, $1, $3, $5. Find the Patreon link down below. Donate whatever you can. It really does help with putting gas in the tank and food in the stomach, because YouTube is not paying me a rat's dime for this stuff. I need 1,000 subscribers and 4,000 watch hours at the time of this recording, and I have neither. So I need a little help. 1, 3, 5, whatever you can afford. It really helps me out. All right, thanks a bunch for watching, and I look forward to seeing you somewhere along that road over there. Have yourselves a great day. Bye.